Going to school is a normal part of your everyday life. Getting up, having your breakfast, catching the bus. You spend your mornings learning, laughing with your friends, playing sports. And surely you know that millions of people can't go to school. We exist in a world where some live in poverty and others do not. This financial difference creates a huge inequality that prevents millions of people from accessing quality education. But there are many who fight against this economic gap. They fight to ensure everyone will be guaranteed access to quality education. Their efforts began long ago. The United Nations Human Rights Commission declared quality education a fundamental human right in 1948. Yes, we've been working on this a long time. This is why the UN, together with many NGOs, associations, and dedicated people who work for this cause, gave birth to the Sustainable Development Goals in 2015. SDGs are the continuation of a global engagement which began in 2000. Among all of the objectives, one of the most important is SDG 4, which focuses on education. SDG 4 says that people should be granted an inclusive, equitable, and quality education. This video is just a drop in the bucket of many heroic efforts that began years ago, continue today, and will extend into the future. The same data can be analyzed differently depending on your perspective. For instance, we know that the percentage of children attending public schools in developing countries has increased by 91%. This is great news and an outstanding achievement. However, this also means that around 57 million children don't go to school. This leaves too many neglected children. Education enables citizens to live in a more just society. Education helps to reduce inequalities, it promotes tolerance, and it creates peaceful and healthy societies. In doing this, education helps people escape from a life of poverty. In 2016, the global percentage of children attending primary education was 70%, but there are still places like Sub-Saharan Africa with a rate of 41%, or North Africa and South Asia with a rate of 52%, where education of children remains at alarmingly low levels. More than half of teenagers around the world, 58%, don't meet minimum levels for basic literacy and mathematical skills. That's 617 million youth. And there's something else. Did you know that in 2016, only 34% of primary schools in underdeveloped countries had electricity, and less than 40% provided basic sanitary facilities in which to wash one's hands? That's the harsh reality of our world. Percentages and statistics back this data. Human beings, unique individuals whose opportunities for an adequate development are limited and can't often benefit from the same opportunities as others. One of the first things we need to understand is that equity does not mean equality. We are accustomed to think that equality is our goal to achieve. That means nobody is above anyone else, that it's our end objective. But what would happen if... Wait, let me give you an example. This family wants to pick some apples from a tree that is rather tall. Fortunately, there are 3 boxes that can be used to climb up and reach the apples. So, they decide to divide the boxes equally, 1 box for each member of the family. Can you see the problem? And maybe a solution? As you can see, we just need to readjust the boxes so that all 3 people can successfully reach the apples. There are situations and cases that escape the principle of equality. Here's a map showing all 25-year-old female students which have received at least secondary education compared with male students of the same age. Areas colored in red, yellow, and orange represent the places where male students outnumber female students. This trend continues today. The same happens with rural and urban education. In rural areas, there are usually more educational barriers, lack of transportation, children helping with house chores, etc. As a consequence, students sometimes quit their studies before graduating. These problems did not originate from the various educational systems, but rather from each society. Societies are strongly influenced by their structures, their histories, their traditions, their economies, and their ideologies. The effect of these influences imbalances and injustices. None of these issues can be solved through equality, but they can be solved through equity. In fact, what is needed is, for example, giving a job to those who deserve it and correcting injustices which emerge from imbalanced societies. Now back to the apple tree example. The important message in this allegory is that people who don't need the box should give it up so that everyone can collect all the apples that they need. Inclusive education is aimed to the person as an individual and to the community. It builds a learning environment for everyone out of the needs of each student. The contents, the working dynamics, and the environment are adjusted to the needs of each person so that the development of each individual is maximized. This starts with allowing the pupils to attend the same school without worrying about entry requirements or mechanisms aimed to filter the selection of pupils should be eliminated. Special emphasis should be given to people showing educational difficulties or who are at risk of exclusion. These are the groups which demand special attention in a supportive system. The objective in this approach is to create a supportive school environment where no one is left behind and all the students work at the same speed. Together, they shoulder any difficulties, and together they make progress as a group. Thanks to inclusive education, Maria, Mohammed, Anna, Alika, Iker, Miriam, Adria, and Rafaela will get to know each other and become friends. They'll share their similar and different experiences and will grow up together, learning to be more tolerant, respectful, and empathetic. Naturally, through their friendship, they'll become more truly aware of situations which otherwise might seem extraneous to them. They will be more aware and understanding of the challenges that others face. We believe that education is a vital tool for the creation of a society which welcomes sustainable development. Empathetic persons can transform their environment towards a future where everyone is included and no one is left behind. Shouldn't creating a better world be everyone's responsibility? Me, you, your family, all those around you, we're all people. The world is made of people. Deep down, we all think the same in many ways, we all share similar feelings and needs. Understanding each other should be easy, right? Actually, it isn't. Human beings are made to empathize and live together in a group. But still, if something doesn't impact you directly, it tends to be overlooked. If it's not part of your everyday life, it doesn't affect you. That's how we are. But why? There can be many reasons, a little bit of everything really. Biological, social, educational factors, but one thing is clear. What we learn during our first few years of development is really important. When we're 3, 4, or 5 years old, we don't distinguish between things the way we do later on. Overseen when we're young, the differences between people sometimes become very big issues in our life years later. A few years ago, finding a non-Caucasian person in a school in certain places would have been rare. Myself and many people around me don't remember any such student in our schools. And this wasn't long ago. For sure, we all live different realities. But beyond that, we're all people. We all enjoy having fun, we all get bored, we all smile, cry, and love. And there's something else. We have more traits in common than differences, and that's where we need to focus. People are the core, each one of them with their similarities and their differences. Although there is much work to be done, people everywhere are trying to make a better world for all of us. And what's behind all of this? A huge amount of work completed throughout the years. An anonymous effort made by volunteers, organizations, and groups. Getting to know people and communities that keep thriving while being a driving force of hope in our future for their neighbors. That's truly amazing. Role models such as Eliodoro Uriona, the current mayor of Toro Toro, didn't have it easy. He struggled greatly. They lived their life working under a scorching sun, growing potatoes for a living, herding, and still just barely surviving off the land. Helped by Christian missionaries, he was able to complete his studies at the boarding school located far from home. He was able to meet his parents only twice a year. He was 10, but he persevered. He returned to his homeland and now is a husband and a father. With the knowledge from his studies, he built an irrigation system and helped his village create a farm of papaya trees. His talents revitalized the entire region. A few miles away in Potosi, we find another fascinating story about the 17-year-old Erasmo Chambi Mendoza. This teenager came from a typical rural family, and like many others, he studied at a Lasallian Brothers boarding school. He didn't start school until he was 6 because the school was a 2-hour walk from home, but it didn't matter. He studied hard and received awards and prizes in science. He even participated in the Science Olympics for math, astronomy, astrophysics, and geography. He's still studying with hopes of becoming a doctor, an astrophysicist, or an engineer to help his community. There are many other examples from all around the world. Examples such as the Fratelli Project in Lebanon is specially designed to meet the multiple needs of refugee children and people. This program helps children prepare themselves to be accepted into the Lebanese public school system. Additionally, the program provides economic and logistic support to these refugee youths displaced by war. They're engaged in female empowerment programs as well as special programs for families at risk, where they develop positive and healthy behaviors. In Madagascar, we encounter the Sara Rivotra Project, which builds classrooms. New study spaces with reduced class sizes enable more students to attend high school. And Tanzania, in Makoko, we work together towards a greater equality of opportunities between men and women through education, actively facilitating access to education for girls between 4 and 13 years old by building new accommodation spaces for the girls. In Nicaragua, in the neighborhood of Pueblo Nuevo, we're trying to facilitate access to quality and equitable basic and integrated education for children with scarce resources. This is being done in one of the poorest rural areas by expanding the San Pablo Apostol School and equipping it with more adequate school supplies. Truly, many are helping around the world. Many anonymous people, heroes of our everyday life, appreciating how many people are able to escape the poverty cycle and improve their expectations. Can you imagine being a part of all of this? Now imagine the world we could build. Many role models inspire us with their efforts, and starting from basically nothing, they can achieve great things. When Malala Yousafzai was 17 years old, she was awarded the Nobel Prize for Peace, the youngest Nobel Prize recipient ever. A Pakistani activist, a blogger, and student, she fights for civil human rights and particularly for women's rights. With an article sent to the BBC under a pseudonym, she drew the world's attention to the Swat River Valley, where the Taliban was preventing women from going to school. Victor Ochen grew up in a violent environment. Around him was enormous violence perpetuated by the LRA, cattle thieves, and the Ugandan army. Despite such a hostile environment, he studied hard and was committed to making a peaceful coexistence possible in Uganda. In 2005, he founded his nonprofit foundation, IUNET, which promotes the involvement of young minds focusing on peace and tolerance. His foundation provides psychological and medical assistance as well as leadership training programs. In 2015, he was nominated for the Nobel Prize for Peace, and he was included in the list of the 10 most influential people in Africa. A current example of youth making a difference in the world can be seen in Greta Thunberg. This young girl shook the environmental world at 16 years old. Through her individual protests, global attention was drawn to the need for climate change action. Many people around the world became her followers. Inspired by her, thousands of Australians protested every Friday. She was asked to give a speech to the United Nations and received many awards for her efforts to address climate change. An inspiring message was found in her words when she said, "No one is too small to make a difference." As you can see, there's a lot to do. If you haven't joined the team yet, what are you waiting for? You can better the world in many ways. In your everyday life, by helping people around you, by ensuring everyone feels comfortable with everyone else, by taking a proactive attitude with your life, by standing against all injustice. You can take action with NGOs, staying informed, engaging others at your school, or asking your parents to work with you to promote positive change, you have the power to make the world a better place. Come join us.